If you're a photographer trying to grow your business online, then you've probably heard about SEO. But what is SEO for photographers and how do you do SEO for photographers? In this video, I'm going to break down the 8 steps to SEO for photographers so that you know exactly what it takes to rank your website high on Google and show up in AI searches such as ChatGPT, Google's AI mode, and Perplexity.
I always like to start all of my SEO campaigns off with technical SEO because if you don't have these core foundations in place, then there's the chance that you may never be able to be found in Google. So let's kick things off with Google Search Console. This is your opportunity to kind of manage your presence in the Google search results to the extent that it is allowable. It's free to create an account and it's fairly straightforward, especially if you're using WordPress. Just use the free Google Sitekit plugin. And if you're using other platforms, it's usually just a few clicks to verify your domain and get set up. The very first thing that you're going to want to do is come over to sitemaps and add in your sitemap. So let me show you how to find this. Generally, what you can do is you can just add this little bit of text after your website, so /sitemap_index.html. In the event that you're unable to find this using this little extension on the domain, what you can do is use the free detailed SEO extension and then scroll down to sitemap, and that will pull up your sitemap. Once you have the sitemap open, what you're going to want to do is grab these unique URLs, so anything after your domain name, and then plug them in here to submit it to Google. I already have mine submitted, so I'm not going to resubmit them, but what this is doing is this is telling Google about all of the pages of your website so that they can crawl it and index it. Because if Google doesn't know about your page, then there's no way it can be found in Google search. Google will just not return it in the search results. So it's very important that Google knows about your pages. You also can check on the individual level. So if you do open up one of your sitemaps and grab the URL, you can request indexing individually and plug it in there. I won't be able to do this since it's not my website, so I could just do, one of my pieces of content, but you plug in the URL, and if it says URL is on Google, you're good to go. And then you can also request indexing if it is not on Google or if you're making changes. So make sure that you're paying attention to this. Another thing that you can do is you can type site : and then the URL, and it should pop right up. If it doesn't, then there's no chance it will be showing in Google. So you'll want to go ahead and request indexing. Now, another important aspect to this is making sure that you have strong internal linking across your website. One website that does this very well is Jeff Wilkins. And so he has a really nice structure in his footer that links to all of his core service offerings and key blog posts that attract clients to his business. I also do this very well on my site where I link a lot of the core pages on my website so that it's easy for Google to find them. As a rule of thumb, you want each page of your website to be accessible within 3 clicks from any page that you land on. So if I land on a blog post, I should be able to get to another blog post within 3 clicks. So making sure that you're linking your blog post, making sure that your blog has links to the individual categories for easy browsing. So like as you see here, if you click SEO, it will filter just for the SEO results. I can go back to all the posts, etc. The other thing that's often overlooked is having a clean, modern design. It's not enough to just have a website. You want to have a website that's professional, modern, and user-friendly so that users can easily take action, understand your services, and understand if you're going to help solve their problem. An outdated design is not a direct ranking factor, but what happens as a result of an outdated design is a ranking factor. More specifically, if a user clicks onto your website and then immediately clicks back, that's a bad signal for Google. So investing in your web design is something that I highly recommend. The other key aspect of technical SEO is making sure that your website performs well on mobile and desktop. So you can use a free tool like PageSpeed Insights to check out your performance for both mobile and desktop. The two key factors that influence your page speed are your web host and image optimization, because that's so important for photographers. So for web host, I recommend, if you're using WordPress, I recommend SiteGround. Their performance is exceptional. If you're on Showit, they'll handle this for you. So usually Showit sites perform quite well. And you also just want to make sure that your website looks great on mobile. So pull out your phone, check everything, make sure it's easy to skim, to read, that everything's stacked appropriately. Step 2 involves building out your local service pages. So what you do for this is take each service that you offer and create a unique page for your core location. So your core location should be wherever your Google business profile is located. So for example, I'm in Fairfax, Virginia, so my X location would be Fairfax, Virginia. Always start with your core location. After you get all of your core location pages built out, then you can move on to secondary locations. So for example, if I wanted to target Arlington, Virginia, I could do that next, but always focus on your core location because it will be the easiest to rank. So basically just take each of your service offerings and pair it with your locations. Each of these should be individual pages. It would be a mistake to say wedding photographer for Fairfax, for Arlington, for Alexandria. You definitely want specific pages, not only from an SEO perspective, but also from a conversion perspective. It just performs better. So think about your top 3 locations and then start building out these pages. Always start with your core location first, wherever your business is really located. And the way that these pages should be structured is as follows. You're going to want to have a hero section about the photographer, portfolio, pricing, testimonials, FAQs, call to action, and then a contact form for easy booking. To show you what this looks like in practice, I'll just use one of my Show It templates to kind of give you a little preview. So on this sales page, we're being very clear, wedding services, wedding photography services in Manhattan, New York. We scroll down, you can learn about the business. You can talk about the benefits of getting married in Manhattan, New York. Talk more about the services. So I'm using keyword variations throughout the copy. This is really important. You can talk about the process, include testimonials, portfolio items, and a call to action and FAQs. So your next question may be, what words do I need to actually put on this page so that it will rank high on Google? I'm going to show you a little hack using ChatGPT. What you're going to do is Google the keyword that you're going after. So let's just go back to wedding photography services in Manhattan, New York. Then you're going to scroll down to the organic search results and open the top 3 to 5 ranking posts. Then you're going to grab all of the copy by clicking Control A on your keyboard, Control Copy, and then asking ChatGPT to extract the relevant keywords for your core topic. And so then these are going to be keywords that you want to make sure that you're hitting on in your copy. And so I would say do this for the top 3 to 5 posts and then ask ChatGPT to write the first draft of your sales page, but also make sure you give ChatGPT information about your business and what makes it unique so that ChatGPT can embed that personalization and uniqueness and so that it's not just generic copy. You can use a paid tool to do this. It's called Rankability. And I use this for all of my clients. It does all of the hard work and takes the total kind of guesswork out of it and will help you create really high quality SEO content that ranks on Google. When I use Rankability, my content ranks on the first page of Google in a couple of days. It's a pretty incredible tool, so I do highly recommend that you check it out. So once the page is created and published, throw it into Google Search Console, request indexing, and then also make sure you link it in your footer. Your core services pages should be linked in your footer for easy access. You can also use a drop-down menu across your server. The next step is to create SEO-driven blog content. On the left-hand side, I have good examples of SEO-driven blog content. On the right, we have generic content that isn't going to move the needle in terms of your SEO. So keep this in mind when you are creating content. On the left, we have very specific topics that your dream clients are searching for. On the right, we have generic pieces of content that Google has seen a million times and isn't actually going to drive leads to your business and position you as the expert that you are. If you would like my complete guide to 67 blog post titles that will make Google and AI searches love your website, make sure you scan the QR code to download it. Now, when you are creating these blog posts, you want to make sure that your content is relevant to the core topic. So again, using a tool like Rankability or ChatGPT to make sure that your content is highly relevant to the core topic. You also want to make sure that your focus keyword is in certain places. Again, coming back to the detailed SEO extension, a free Google Chrome add-on, you want to make sure that your keyword is in the title, in the description, in the URL, and you want to make sure that your focus keyword is used throughout the headings, particularly the H1 and the first H2. Doesn't necessarily need to be used beyond that. So just some basic on-page SEO best practices. So if you're not using this plugin, I'll just quickly show you. You can download it here, and then you can watch this YouTube video of mine that walks you through how to use it and make the most out of it. All right, so now it's time to talk about how to get backlinks to your website. Backlinks are links from other websites to your website, and Google sees them as a vote of confidence in your website. The best way to think about this is there are tens of thousands phenomenal photographers out there. How does Google prioritize who are the best? and bringing the most value to the industry, one of the key ways is through backlinks, links from other websites to yours. So in my blog post, SEO for Photographers, I list out backlink opportunities for photographers and wedding photographers. So you can just go through and start knocking out these links at the very basic level without having to do any research. You can just go here and use these. When you are ready to do research and take it to the next level, what I recommend for you to do is enter keywords that you're wanting to show up for into Google, and then scroll down to look for listicles and places where you can get mentioned. So for example, you're not going to get mentioned on a direct competitor's website. You're not going to get mentioned on Instagram, but you could get listed in the Knot. You could come and get your brand mentioned in Reddit. Those are great opportunities. Same thing with Wedding Wire. And just scroll down and start building out a Google Doc of all of these opportunities. Don't even try and get listed yet. Just collect all of these opportunities. So I like to do this in Google itself. So I also like to do this in Google's AI mode. So when you conduct a search, it will show you the sources that it's pulling from. Again, you're not going to get listed in competitors' websites directly, but of course you can get listed in listicles, in the Wedding Wire, in LinkedIn, etc. So again, for now, compile all of these up into a Google Doc and take it one step further with ChatGPT. At the very bottom of your search, you can just look at the sources and add these to your list. Now, the next thing that I recommend for you to do is to think about local blogs. So for example, I'm based in Northern Virginia. A very popular blog in Northern Virginia is the Washingtonian.com magazine. And I would recommend checking publications like this every quarter or so to look for relevant blogs for you to get your brand mentioned in. For example, DC area businesses are offering deals for federal workers and contractors. I came across this blog post and thought this would be a great opportunity for my business, Samantha Digital, to get listed in. The other thing you can do is just Google like Northern Virginia, which is where I'm located, blogs. You can also do this for news. You can also do this for local sponsorships, and see where you can become a sponsor in your area to get a backlink. So for example, my favorite example is Fairfax Pool. I became a sponsor of the Fairfax Pool, and here you go. I have my business with a link to my website. This is a great opportunity to build links and get your brand out there more. All right, so let's talk next about optimizing your Google business profile. So the biggest ranking factors for your Google business profile are your business name, your physical location, and your reviews. If you don't have these three down, then you can just forget about ranking. So for business name, once you have your business name, there's not too much you can do. As you can see, a lot of these business owners are adding photography after their brand name. So for example, if I was Sam Marilegro, that was my business name, it would be very much in my best interest to add photography at the end of my business name. You can just create a DBA to make it more official with Google when you go to change it. The second most important ranking factor is your physical address. So if I am in Brooklyn, but I want to show up in Manhattan, it's just not going to happen. Google prioritizes the actual location that people are searching. So it's not going to show me, Brooklyn wedding photographers if I'm specifically searching in Manhattan. So if you did want to show up in Manhattan, you would have to get an address in Manhattan. And then of course, reviews. Google wants to show trustworthy, very credible and great businesses. And these businesses do that very well. They have amazing reviews. Beyond that, the next thing that you want to do is just make your profile as complete as possible. Add a bunch of images. Also, make sure you're collecting reviews as much as possible. Have your address, areas served, link to book a Calendly, an appointment, your phone number. You can even add your social profiles, and sometimes businesses post like updates, but basically just make your profile as complete as possible. The next step is to generate more reviews. Reviews are seriously the biggest cheat code in SEO and AI SEO or geo or whatever you want to call it. Google and LLMs just absolutely eat up businesses with good reviews. So always, always, always ask every customer that you think will leave a 5-star review to leave a 5-star review. I'm not going to read this. Look at the screen, take a screen clip, and just bake it into your process. Getting reviews is truly the best thing that you can do. Google and LLMs want to show and recommend businesses that other people trust and recommend. So this can't be understated. It's the biggest cheat code. All right, moving on to image optimization for photographers. I think a lot of business owners like to overcomplicate image optimization. I'm going to break it down and explain exactly what matters using my own website's image library because it's what I can share publicly. So if I click on one of these images, I can see that I am not using optimal file names. Like, you should never upload an image to your website 7-1. And clearly I'm guilty of this right now. I was in a rush to get this post up, but it is very much a better practice to have a file name that represents the image. So the Willow Estate bouquet would be much more appropriate file name. And then you also can add alternative text. Alternative text is used by screen readers for people that can't see visually but hear the text on the screen. So this should be white roses wrapped in green wrapper with the Willow Estate logo on it. That would be a perfect image alt text for this image. You shouldn't just keyword stuff it like the Willow Estate, luxury branding, etc. It should be like sentence format. You don't need to make it paragraphs. One sentence that could help the user visualize what the image is saying. And then you also want to make sure that your files aren't too large. You should not be uploading multiple images that are megabytes on megabytes on megabytes. So compress them before you upload them. My favorite tool to use this is squish.app. Drag it in, compress it, and then upload it to your website. There's other tools you can use, of course, that will do it in bulk, but of course you want to be careful about the image becoming too pixelated. I find that this tool works perfectly and none of my images are pixelated when I use it. So it really is an exceptional tool for image compression, making sure that your image is not too large, because when you have large images on your website, it makes your website load slower, which can cause people to leave, which is a bad signal to Google when they see people are leaving your site quickly. All right, so the next step is to analyze and track our SEO performance. So I like to use Google Search Console and Google Analytics to do this if I'm limited to only free tools. Of course, there's tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush. If you have the budget for them, they're great. There's a lot more you can track, but just at a very basic level in Google Search Console, what you're going to do is want to go over to performance, click search results, and then I usually like to look at the 3-month mark. Of course, you can look at, up to the last year or so, but just scrolling down and showing more records per page, it will show you all of the queries that your brand is showing up for. So this is really useful information because if you don't have pages targeting these keywords, it's a great opportunity for you to create dedicated pages for these keywords. You can also look at your top performing pages by tabbing over to the pages. So these pages are appearing most in the Google search results. Over on the Google Analytics side, you can monitor your traffic and you can also view the top pages. So I really like this report to see what pages bring me the most traffic. Key things that I look for here with my blog posts that are ranking high, I always make sure that these are always up to date and also have multiple calls to action to free lead magnets so that I don't lose touch with all of these visitors that are coming to these pages. So that's something to always think about with your blog posts that are doing really well. Are they always up to date? Do they have calls to action to push people further down your funnel? Just staying on top of that is really valuable. And then if you see a blog post climbing up the ranks, that's a good sign, but you may want to go back and double check and make sure that it's up to date and fully optimized to represent your brand.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please comment below and I'll get back to you right away. For a limited time, I'm offering free audits and strategies for photographer websites, so make sure you check out the caption for details there.